Welcome and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here today. Happy to have you along on this very hot Wednesday morning, but it's a little bit cooler now that I get to spend time with you. Thank you. Tip your wait staff. I'll be here all morning. My name is Randy Lober, Growth Marketing Manager here at Action Benefits, and happy to talk to you today about how to use some data from the U.S. Census Bureau. Yes, that Census Bureau to really guide some marketing uh, for your agency. How do you get your name out there? How do you get your brand out there? And how do you find the people that are most important to your brand, whether it is those just aging into Medicare, whether it is those already in Medicare, maybe you're looking for a SEP opportunity, or maybe on the other side of the coin, it's you're looking for folks who maybe are just recently lost their enhanced premium tax credits. They are, maybe just over that 400% FPL threshold, and they might be in need of a catastrophic policy from you, but they don't know you exist yet because they haven't found your advertisements yet, right? So that's what we want to kind of focus on here today is how do we use free available data from the U.S. Census Bureau, and we'll talk a bit about them today. And how do we leverage that data to take advantage of every door direct mail from USPS and put physical flyers and mailers in people's mailboxes? Or how do we take advantage of that data to put things on Facebook? When I'm putting together a Facebook ad, am I targeting the right places where those people live or are likely to see that? Or if maybe I want to go old school and I want to buy some billboards, nothing wrong with a billboard. Quickest way to build some brand awareness and recognition because you're there, right? You're permanent, especially on your uh, target audience's commutes to and from work or wherever or school or wherever they might be going, all different ways. And so that's today, the root of today's session. One of my favorite parts of my job is working with you all on how you do those things, right? Where do you do those things? Where do you spend your billboard money, your Facebook money, your mailer money, or even spend some of our money to help, bring some clients in the door. And where I start every time we do that is with the Census Business Builder, the CBB. Now we can, this is available free from the US government. I'll take you through a quick spin of this website in a minute, but I want to tell you why I start here as opposed to going directly to a mailing house or something else that does a lot of the work for us. And the reason why, frankly, comes down to cost. The more you ask a mailing house to do, right, in terms of finding addresses, finding your turning 65 list, and do the work for you, the more that gets baked into the cost. But if you can come to that mailing house or even come to any of these other platforms with your ideal locations already in mind, you're saving some money, whether it's in the upfront cost that you pay that mailing house to develop the mails, send it out to your target customers, or you're saving some money because you're not showing ads where the audience you want to see your ads uh, isn't available, isn't seeing it. I am generally a camera on kind of guy, but for today's session, we'll be spending a lot of time focusing on the things I want to take you through over on my other screen. So I won't make you like look at my thinking face because you'll see my tongue sticking out here and there. We'll just turn that screen off and get off to the races here. All right. On my screen, you should be seeing the Business Builder CBB with the United States Census Bureau in the top left side of the screen. And you see here that we're on version 5.11. You'll see some key features here, but what's really important and why I'm showing this is to show you that it's a credible, what I'm about to show you is a credible tool available to you based on data gathered by the United States government. There are some good FAQs we're taking a look at. They will take you through a demonstration. So if you forget anything here today and don't want to look at my recording, you can look at some what's provided by the government here. Where I want to spend a little bit of time, though, is in the FAQs about the Census Business Builder, because this is one of the things we want to take a look at here is how often are the data in the CBB updated? So the Census Bureau, by the way, it doesn't administer just that survey you fill out every 10 years to say, here's who lives in my household, here's our race, ethnicity, here's our income, so on and so forth. They actually administer about 180 different surveys, 180 different programs. And some of that data is put together and put on display for us in the program I'm about to show you. We see that the demographic data is updated every December, and economic data from county business patterns and unemployers statistics are updated annually in June, which is why we're putting this on here today. Looks like the government's behind and updating the website, but I've took a spin through some of the data earlier this week and can verify that the data we'll be looking at has been updated on scheduled here today, which is why this session belongs here. And you'll see a bunch of other FAQs here as well. But the real meat and potatoes of this session, ladies and gentlemen, lies within the Census Business Builder. And you should see my screen change over to what looks like a map of the United States. And here on this map, the United States, this is the tool itself. And we can start by searching for a location or taking a tour of the software. If I were to click take a tour, it would give me a little click-through tour of every possible window I can see here on the Census Business Builder. But I don't need that right now, and neither do you. You want to know the good stuff. What are you going to use? So let's start up here in our top left. I'll give you a tour of most everything on the screen, or at least the important stuff for us here today. Up in the top left, you see custom industries in all sectors. Now, we are using this today to focus on finding data about individuals, about households. But if you were, say, an employer group agent and you were instead looking for you wanted to be the restaurant king of Northville or wherever it is you do business at, or the restaurant king of your locale, and you want to find out how many restaurants and all the zip codes are around you, that's certainly a possibility. Or you want to look for large manufacturing firms because that's your wheelhouse. That's a possibility here, searching for industries as well, but not something we'll spend time with immediately here today. Over here, we'll be able to choose variables that'll tell us a little bit more about what kind of people we're talking about or talking to. We'll be able to look at consumers and residents, annual business data, quarterly business data, workforce data, building permits, consumer spending, jobs, and other variables we can create. And we can choose different variables about that data here as well. And we can always display both a primary and secondary variable on the map. That's useful, for example, if I want to know, A, where are people who are of working age, and B, what their income level is. And I'll show you an example of that in a minute. The filter tab here lets me, of course, filter in counties, states, zip codes that I might want to see as well. Whatever I do, in the app here, I can always download it. It will give me a view of an Excel file, a CSV of all the data that I'm currently looking at on the screen. So if you needed to take something off to a mailing house to say, I want to target these zip codes, these counties, that's a possibility here for an export. There's always a help feature available here. And you'll find out that I can always go from state to the metro areas, to county areas, to city, towns, zip codes, and census tracts, which roughly boils down to a neighborhood. And down here is kind of a snapshot of the area if I have selected. So if I have selected Michigan here, we'll see some basic data here right away. There's about 306,000 businesses here in Michigan. You can see how we rank compared to other states, our median household income, and these all change based on the variables I want to look at. Should also point out down on the right-hand side here, I've got a legend, shows me what these different colors mean. In this case, light green means less people or less businesses. Dark blue means more businesses, and Michigan's right smack dab in the middle here for this particular chart. But we are not interested in businesses today, ladies and gentlemen. We are first interested in finding folks who may be Medicare eligible and who may need our help. So the first spot I'm going to go is up to establishments. Up to my variables here, I do want to look at my primary category of consumers, and I want to look at their demographic characteristics. What are these people like? Who are they with? And I'm going to look for the percent who are 65 years and older. And if I do that, oops, I made that a secondary variable. Well, that was the advanced version here. So I see that I have, let's get rid of this. I don't want that. Here we go. If I have on the map here, I've got a good idea of where people 65 and older live, or what percent of the population in these areas is 65 and older, with Florida, as you might guess, being fairly high, New England being fairly high, Michigan being kind of middle of the road here, or high middle of the road. But knowing that there are people that are 65 in the state of Michigan doesn't help you too much when you're looking to put billboards on, because there's about, oh, at least 7,000 different places you could put a billboard in the state of Michigan. So let's zero in on a zip code, for example. Maybe I want to look at where Action Benefits is housed in zip code 48075. I can do that. It comes down to zip code here, and I know that Southfield here, or this portion of Southfield at least, has about 18 to 23% of the area or 18 to 23% of the folks that are 65 and older. If I go next door to 48033, I've got a little bit more dense senior population. And indeed, if I zoom in or out of this map, I see zip codes around me populate here as well. So even if I were a Southfield agent, right, and I go and look at city and town and know that Southfield stretches in this area here, if I go down to the zip code level, I know that Southfield's got some good ideas for me here, but I don't really want to go too far east of me, right? Because there's not as rich possibilities for me there. If I get down to the neighborhood level, and Southfield was again where my mouse was here, I now know which neighborhoods are good targets for me as well. In fact, there's certain parts of Southfield that are more dense with seniors here, right around the lodge, for example, right on the Lathrop Village border. Again, some other areas here. If I were to zoom in and find out what road this is that's going through here, I'm looking here at Lincoln and Woodville Drive here in Southfield. So again, shows me some good ideas of where folks who are over 65 live. Now, we should note that that is still a pretty broad brush that we're painting with. We could get that a little more fine tipped by using a filter. So say I don't want all this noise around me. Instead, I want to have some filters here. We're filtering on demographic here, and I also want to see put a filter on that data. What percent of the population is 65 and older? And I don't want to see any county with less than, let's say 20% or so, right? I want to be really focused on what the data is showing me. I can do that. And now only the counties that fit that criteria, right, that have at least 20% of their population 65 and older, are just popping up for me. And that still gives me an idea of where might be a good idea to take a look at. Here in Lathrop Village still looks pretty good if I'm Southfield based. If I zoom out and take a look at the remainder of the state, can't zoom out much more without losing the neighborhood data. If I go out to zip codes, maybe it gives me a little more flexibility to zoom out. But now I've got some zip codes over here in St. Clair and Marine City. If I look over here in the Richmond area, I have some possibilities here, depending on how far I want to go. If I go from Dexter over here to Chelsea, there's an option for me, right? There's a pretty fairly dense 65-year-old option. So that's one way we can use that data and find folks that we might be interested in. Now, this only shows us people that are already 65, right? It doesn't show us necessarily people who are about to turn 65, which as if you're a Medicare agent, you know you have some opportunity there. So I'm going to delete this filter, and I am going to change my primary variable. Still going to be demographic, but instead I want to look for the median age of these areas. And this is closer to the bottom than it was the top. The median age figure is going to tell me, oops, let's swap those real quick. And remove that secondary variable. The median age tells me, if I look down at my legend here, the median age tells me that half of the people in this zip code are older than this median age here, half the people in the zip code are younger than that median age here. It doesn't help me zero in necessarily on where people are about to turn 65. So I'm going to need the help of a filter to do that here as well. I'm going to also pull up median age here in the filter. And I'm not interested in anyone that's 69.4, right? I want to bring that down to 65, give us some flexibility here. And I'm not really interested in anyone, that has a median age that is too high here either. But so I have some data still to look at. Let's leave it at 55. And now I know that the areas most likely to have some agents are actually over here in, I've got some here in 41319. I've got some over here in Williamsville, Gregory, and Unadilla townships here. So I've got some other areas that I can really focus on here that I know are older, that are more likely to have agents than some other areas around me. If I make that filter a little more forgiving, I can pull in more data that might be a little bit closer to me. If I were to zoom out here, we'll see some of these fill in here. And indeed, I can go around the state or into these portions of the state here as well. But it does stand to reason that a lot of the Metro Detroit area may be a little bit younger than other areas here as well. But again, it gives me an opportunity to take a look at different spots where I can spend my marketing attention. The other thing I can take a look at is we also wanted to see what it might be like to maybe D-SNPs. So those who are eligible for Medicare, but also for Medicaid, maybe that is an area I want to focus my business on. And so that's something I can do here as well. If I go back to my primary variable and I again choose that percent 65 years and older to start with. And with my secondary variable, if I want to also look at their median household income, right? Because that's going to tell me whether they're likely to be Medicaid eligible or not. Those are two good things for me to look at. So in blue, in the colors here, right? Excuse me. We're going to see again areas that are more likely to have people that are 65 and over. In the larger the dot is, the larger the household income. So if I were to look at, for example, make this a little more familiar, if I were to look on the county level, I would know, for example, that we've got some fairly larger dots in Livingston and in Oakland County. If I were to zip around, that household income, median income, gets a bit smaller compared to its neighbors in Washtenaw or in Monroe, around there. But again, that county level data isn't always super helpful to you. If we go down to the zip code and zoom in a little bit here, we're going to see the map automatically change with us here. We can recenter this on Southfield as well, just so we have a frame of reference that we're looking at. And here in that zip code, I've got a fairly small circle. The size of that circle tells me the median income's about 43,000 to 71,000, and I've got folks that are 65 and older. That could be a good opportunity for me to market D-SNPs or to help folks out here. I could also use a filter for that median income. And the Medicaid threshold for a household of two in Michigan this year is 43,280. So if I were to narrow down that median income a little bit, now my targeting changes a little bit here as well. I've got this zip code here in the southern part of Southfield, right between Southfield Road and the Lodge. That looks like it could be a good fit for D-SNPs. Might be an area for me to spend some time marketing going forward. If I were to zoom out, I'm going to get some other counties here as well. Good, more decent opportunity here in the Dearborn area. If I were to go down here and certainly into the Detroit area, I have some opportunity. And even if I were to go upstate a little bit, maybe if I go into the tip of the thumb, no opportunities there just yet based on these criteria. But if I were to take a turn around the state, that's certainly an option as well. The last thing we wanted to think about together, ladies and gentlemen, or the other audience I promised we take a look at is folks who maybe are working age and might have recently lost their advanced premium tax credits. Maybe they need a catastrophic plan or something else that you have in your portfolio that can help take care of them. We're going to clear this filter here. We are going to get rid of our variables here and start from scratch. So in this case, instead of looking at people 65 and older, I want to see the percent of the population that's working age between 25 and 64 years. And just to zoom out a little bit, that shows you again how the composition of this map changes a little bit because it's almost the opposite, really, of where the folks were most likely to be 65 at. So I know that if these folks are working age and if they're not an employer group plan, of course, they may be someone that may be marketplace eligible. But I also know that income is what determines your eligibility for premium tax credits on the marketplace. And I also know that folks who might have recently lost their tax credits are probably making above 400% of the federal poverty level for their household. So if I add another filter on here, and again, I want to look at median household income for a family, or for a single rather, the 400% of FPL is 63,840. I did that wrong. And that's still wrong because I really want to look, that's going to be my lower bound here. This is how you know it's a live demo, ladies and gentlemen. Um, all the way up to 190 over here. So I want to look for it. Let's try that again. All right. If I have median household income here, my lower bound becomes 63,840. Now I've got some better ideas of where for those singles, right, that they might be eligible for not ineligible for tax credits, um, and maybe eligible for catastrophic plans or other help I might be able to provide them. I know I've got some rich opportunities in some of these areas up here. This dark blue zip code is interesting to me, up near the Wolcott Mills area, over on the east side. That is still a pretty broad swath of area I can take a look at here, so I can also narrow that down a little bit further. I can also take a look at their average household size. And if I really want to zero in on the income threshold and the average household size, I'll be able to do some filtering here. If I want to bring that maybe down to looking for households of two or so, right? That may need some help. Now I have a better idea of people who are more likely to be singles and in that thresholds here in the Royal Oak area. That's in the Hazel Park area. I've got some good opportunity for folks who may be over that 400% poverty threshold and in need of help finding something else. But come down right here to South Detroit. Shout out Journey. I got some opportunities here as well. And again, if I were to maybe play with that filter a little bit, I wanted to bring that household size up a little bit further so I could have more chances to grab families. I have an option to do that here too and play with the data. So that said, ladies and gentlemen, that's three different ways we can slice the data. We took a look and we found where we can find folks who are Medicare eligible. We took a look at folks that are at communities that are more likely to have folks that are DSNP eligible. And we took a look at how to find some folks that are more likely to be working age and need help with the marketplace. I'm going to pause and take a sip of water real quick while I check out for any questions you might have before I show you how we use this data over here. All right, seeing no questions, let's go ahead and pop forward. We'll just, for the sake of ease here, we'll just keep the data as it is. This is our marketplace data here, and I'm really interested here in this area, dark blue, Oak Park, Royal Oak, for folks who may need my help finding marketplace alternatives. And as we said at the top, there's three different ways we can do that. First one I want to first let me remember the zip code we're looking at 48220. First thing we can do is take a look at every door direct mail from the United States Postal Service. What this service does as it's searching here is we're going to be able to pick out some mail routes. And what it does is it enlists the help of your local letter carriers to drop mailers in those mailboxes. Because it's more of a shotgun approach, it's a little bit cheaper actually than targeting folks who are exactly turning 65, but I still have some control over what I do here, right? So I know, for example, that I probably don't want to send to businesses. I want to send to residential routes only. So that's going to narrow down some of these pink routes I can take a look at. For the ages I'm taking a look at, maybe I am just working age here. I set it anywhere between 25 to 65. If I look at the size of the route or the average household size, I don't have the opportunity to do that on this level. But we can play with a few different filters here. If I were to zoom in a bit, I can find specific routes here that might work for me. So, for example, if I know on this particular route, this particular letter carrier, and these streets in Oak Park, if I were to zoom in, this is Camborne Street in Oak Park. Um, three-quarters of the people that live on that mail route. Let me clear that real quick so you can see what I saw here. All right. Three-quarters of the people or over three-quarters of the people are my working age folks. Their net income is well over that $63,000 threshold that we had earlier. That might be a good opportunity for me to send some mailers to about their options here. I know that I'm going to hit about 528 households, and my cost to enlist the letter carrier's help there is going to be about $130 just to hit those households. Now, of course, you still have your printing costs and so on and so forth, but now you have a really good idea, right, of where you can spend some marketing dollars and target those folks. If I go over to Facebook, I can see some cost savings here. Um, maybe I don't want to go and I should mention here that I'm in the ad setup diagram here. I'm not going to run this ad. This is our retail agency we use when you refer business to us, but you don't see them out in the field too often. I just needed some way to show you where the ads are. But if you're going to create your audience and choose out your locations here, I wouldn't want to go to Southfield, but instead, if I wanted to go to 48220, which is that Oak Park Ferndale zip code I picked out earlier. Again, I have the option to zero in my advertising right there on that zip code, and I can add or subtract miles from there as well. And over, if I were to look at outdoor advertising, right, whether this is billboards, bulletins, posters, digital billboards, wallscapes, shelters, I can see what's available. If I were to go 48220 over here, this is Lamar Advertising, who does a bunch of the billboards around here. I can see the billboards and placements available here in the area. I know that I was looking particularly in the Oak Park area here. So if I want a spot to put billboards, well, here's pretty close to where I was. I can get a half display billboard, see that 36, or about 3,400 for 4 weeks of display there. But also it might have some other options available to me as well, bus stops or billboards or things like that as well, and have the option to pick things up. Of course, you also have the option to do any other marketing you want to, as long as you keep compliant. If you're marketing under 65, now I know neighborhoods I can go knock some doors in, right? If I'm keeping it over 65 marketing, well, I know I can't go to door in that market. But again, I have the opportunity to have flyers delivered in those areas. I can get collateral from my carriers and put it out there. I know where I might want to sponsor little league events or school events because I can pay school $500 and get my name on the back of every little kid that goes to that school, right? There's lots of opportunities, right? And what the Census Business Builder data does is show you where those opportunities are and where you can spend money and hopefully get a good return on that. Now, I know that we have talked about a lot in the past half hour or so. but that is just a-okay with me. I also know that you may not remember everything you hear today, or you might need some help getting some of this stuff done. So, should you need any help with any of this stuff going forward, you are welcome to talk to your team here at Action Benefits. You can find us on LinkedIn at the Action Benefits Company. You can email Chelsea and I at learning@actionbenefits.com or get a hold of anyone here at 248-356-8585. But that is today in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to show you the business builder, talk about how you can manipulate that data and figure out where the people most important to your business live, and then showed you again how I can take those findings, put them into three different tools, and help deliver advertising to where my prospects live. I want to thank you all for your time and attention here today. We weren't here for a long time, but hopefully we're here for a good time. Um, Happy to stick around for any questions you might have or anything you want to pick my brain on, but you're going to hear the recording stop here in just a few moments so the folks at home don't have or the folks viewing the recording later don't have a bunch of dead air on the recording later. So again, thank you all for your time. You'll hear that recording stop, but I'm happy to stick around for any questions you might have.